The day I found out I was pregnant with twins, my CEO husband came home with his white moonlight and their 5-year-old daughter, forcing me to step aside and leave the Clark family. I signed the divorce papers with tears in my eyes. 4 years later, when we met again, he saw me holding a son and a daughter, and lost his mind. I was pregnant, with twins. Just as I was about to share the news with him, his first love returned, bringing along their 5-year-old daughter. My daughter is only 5. She needs her father. Could you let Ben come back to us? Her daughter needed a father. But what about my children? I had 2 of them. I looked up at Ben, hoping he would make a choice. But he turned his head away in silence. Later, I found out, her so-called daughter wasn't even hers. She was mine. Ours. 5 years ago, Ben and I had a child. But due to complications, our baby passed away shortly after birth. The doctor told me it would be difficult for me to conceive again. That loss devastated me. For a long time, I couldn't even look at a child without falling apart emotionally. Ben's parents didn't dare mention anything. Ben himself never spoke a word about children. Whenever we passed by a baby store, he'd change the topic or guide me to take another route. I once brought up divorce, but Ben refused. He said children weren't essential to him, and if I really wanted one, we could adopt. But I knew he liked children. Maybe not openly, but the pressure from his parents weighed heavily on him. This past year, I secretly went to the hospital for a full checkup. The doctor said I was perfectly healthy, told me to relax. As long as Ben had no issues, it was just a matter of time. And Ben had no issues. So 5 years after losing a child, I finally got pregnant again. At 48 days, the doctor confirmed 2 gestational sacs, twins. The moment I heard it, tears streamed down my face. Heaven took 1 child from me, and now gave me 2 in return. Ben would be so happy hearing this. I couldn't wait a second longer. Holding the prenatal report, I rushed to his office. Just as I got out of the car downstairs, I saw a tall man holding a little girl's hand. She looked up and asked him something. He crouched down, patiently answering her questions. The afternoon sun bathed their faces in a warm, golden light. They looked beautiful together, like a picture of happiness. I thought to myself, if that were Ben, he'd be just as gentle with our child. He'd be a great father. A woman beside them gently said, "Emma, Daddy is busy. Let's go home, okay?" "No. I want to stay with Daddy," the girl pouted, clinging to the man's arm. "Emma? Daddy has to work." "I'll come back to play after work, all right," he said, scooping her into his arms, only to freeze when he turned around and saw me. It was really Ben. But the child calling him Daddy wasn't ours. Standing beside him was Lisa White, the ex-girlfriend he broke up with years ago. When did they have a child? "Maria." Ben put the little girl down, stood up, and walked toward me. "Why are you here? Aren't you working today?" If I hadn't come, how would I have witnessed such a heartwarming moment? I smiled faintly, though my heart was bleeding. Just this morning, I'd been at the hospital, overjoyed about my pregnancy. Now, I was standing in front of him and a child who looked 4 or 5 years old. "Long time no see," Lisa said, quickly pulling the child behind her. She insisted on seeing her dad. I couldn't say no. "You two go ahead, I'll take Emma home now." "No need. The one who should leave is me." I turned and got into my car, speeding away as fast as I could. I was terrified that if I waited even a second longer, I would completely fall apart. But no matter how hard I tried to hold myself together, the moment I got home, I broke down. I couldn't understand it. Why would Ben have such a grown child with Lisa? The girl looked 4 or 5 years old. If our child hadn't died 5 years ago, he or she would have been around the same age. Ben didn't seem like the type to maintain ties with an ex. Which led me to believe, it was likely Lisa was already pregnant when they broke up. That child must be 5 or 6 years old now. I sat in the car, staring out the window in a daze, unable to stop the tears from falling. What now? What should I do? I had already lost 1 child 5 years ago. This time, I couldn't bear to lose the twins inside me. No matter what, I had to protect them. But, what if they had to share a father with someone else's child? Ben never loved me. I'd always known. When we got married, he told me, "Since we've chosen marriage, I'll treat you well. But my heart already has a void, Maria. If you're looking for love, I may not be able to give you that. But I'll try." That last sentence was enough for me. I smiled and said, "It's all right. I don't need love to survive." I didn't live on love. I lived on him. At the time, I thought as long as I could stay by his side, living out my life as Mrs. Clark, that would be happiness enough. From the age of 16, becoming his wife had been my greatest dream, even more than painting. In the 6 years of our marriage, I'd never once regretted it. Ben might not have loved me, but he was a good husband. Gentle, calm, with no bad habits, hardworking, from a good family, handsome, and never stingy with me. And most importantly, he knew how to be romantic. Knowing I loved ceremony, he put a lot of effort into our wedding. He decorated the venue in warm amber tones I adored. He collected photos and videos of me from my childhood, surprising me with a montage at the ceremony. "I've missed so many years," he said. "But I'll make up for them from now on." All the women at the wedding cried. So did I. After the wedding, he took me to Switzerland for our honeymoon. Knowing I loved skiing, he even arranged for my favorite athlete to teach me. Every anniversary, he never forgot, not once. He'd always bring gifts, take me on a trip. Last year, he rented a yacht and took me out to sea. We went diving, gathered seashells, watched the sunrise and sunset together. He said this year, he'd take me to Turkey to ride a hot air balloon. The year we lost our child, he rarely worked overtime. He came home early to eat with me, to watch movies or take walks together. All those romantic memories were still vivid, as if they had happened just yesterday. Sometimes I'd wonder, had he maybe fallen in love with me without realizing it? Why else would he do so much? But those thoughts would always shatter when I'd find him lost in thought on the balcony, or quietly reading through his ex's diary. He never once mentioned her name, but she had never truly left his heart. And now, she was back. With his child. In front of her and her daughter, the little responsibility and affection he still had for me, crumbled like ashes in the wind. Even if I was carrying twins, what did it matter? I didn't have the strength to fight her. I cried in the car for a long time. When I finally pulled myself together and walked into the house, Ben was already back. He was holding my favorite, shrimp wontons. "You haven't eaten yet, right? I got you your favorite," he said gently, setting the takeout box on the table and carefully unpacking it. "Mom told me you went to the hospital today. Are you feeling unwell?" His voice was so genuinely concerned, it almost made me forget that just earlier, he'd been parading around with his ex and a child in public. I took a deep breath and looked up at Ben. At the man I had loved for over a decade. At the husband I had shared a bed with for 6 years. And suddenly, he felt like a stranger. "That child, she's yours, isn't she?" The question was almost pointless. If she weren't, he wouldn't have let her call him Daddy. He would have explained things to me the moment I appeared. But instead, he stood there in silence. And now, he lowered his eyes and remained quiet. That silence said everything. I felt my heart sink. After a long moment, he finally spoke. "I didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't know she had the child." "So?" I asked, looking at him. My mind was a mess. I didn't know what to do. Sometimes, when I thought of the babies inside me, I selfishly hoped he would leave her and her daughter, and come back to live a peaceful life with me. But the moment they returned, I knew peace was no longer an option. "When did you find out?" I asked. "Not long ago, about half a month ago." Half a month ago? I suddenly remembered that one night, 2 weeks ago, he said he'd take me to a movie after work. I bought the tickets and waited for him at the mall. But then he said something urgent had come up. I thought he was working late, so I watched the movie alone. That night, he came home very late. And after that night, he started working overtime frequently. When I offered to bring lunch to his office, he'd say he was eating out. Just a few days ago, I started experiencing morning sickness. I couldn't keep anything down. At first, I thought it was just indigestion. When we finally had dinner together 2 nights ago and he noticed something was off, he said he'd go with me to the hospital. But by the time I confirmed I was pregnant, he never came. He didn't go with me at all. Looking back, all the signs were there. But after 6 years together, I chose to ignore the clues. I chose to trust him. I thought I'd be the one to surprise him. Turns out, he beat me to it, with a surprise I could never have prepared for. "I'll take care of everything. Just give me some time," he said. It seemed he still had some sense of responsibility toward me. He hadn't even mentioned divorce. "I'm tired. I'm going to lie down for a bit." I wanted to ask him, how exactly did he plan to take care of it? I wanted to throw it all in his face and force an answer that would break the last piece of my heart. But I stopped myself. My mind was in chaos. His probably was too. If I pushed him now, it would only drive him further into her arms. Call me selfish, call me blind, I just didn't want to make things easier for them. He's still my husband. Why should I be the one to compromise? I wanted my babies to be born into a complete family. I wanted them to have a father who loved them from the moment they opened their eyes, not one who abandoned them before they even arrived. Ben didn't follow me upstairs. That alone brought me a strange sense of relief. I sat on the bed for a while before falling asleep. I didn't know how long I had slept. I was woken up by hunger. I got up to find something to eat, but just as I reached the staircase, I overheard Ben talking to his mother downstairs. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" If she hadn't called, I wouldn't have even known she brought the child back. It was my mother-in-law's voice, quiet, tinged with resignation. It seemed Lisa had grown impatient and gone directly to Ben's mom. "So what are you planning to do now?" she asked. From where I stood, I could see Ben lying limply on the couch, rubbing his head in frustration. "I don't know," he muttered. "You did a paternity test? She's yours?" "Yeah." "Well, if she's part of our family, we can't just leave her out there." Her voice drifted from afar, but I could sense a strange hint of happiness in it. "Maria's a good girl. She's done so much for our family. But that doesn't mean we let the Clark bloodline end. Mom, I can't let Maria down. If it weren't for her family back then. Our marriage hadn't been the result of his love or my devotion, it was a business transaction. My father had helped the Clark family through a financial crisis and saved their nearly bankrupt company. At first, my dad didn't want to get involved, the hole the Clarks had dug was too deep. But I begged him. I pleaded until he finally agreed to help. I never even brought up marriage. It was Ben who proposed. He said he'd treat me well. That he'd repay me with the rest of his life. "I know," his mom said. "I know all of that. But we can't just ignore the child either. What if we give the other woman some money and bring the kid here? You and Maria can raise her together. If it were you, would you be willing to raise your husband's ex's child?" Ben's voice was hoarse. "Well, what else can you do? You can't divorce Maria and marry that woman instead, can you?" "I don't know. I shouldn't have listened to you in the first place. None of this would have happened." My heart clenched at his words. "Oh, so now it's my fault," his mother snapped. "You didn't object when I told you what to do. Would objecting have mattered?" Ben shot back. "You arranged the wedding and told me when it was. You planned the honeymoon. Every holiday, every anniversary, you picked the gifts and had me give them to Maria. Every evening when I was just about to leave work, you'd blow up my phone, demanding I come home to be with her." He paused, then continued, "Every time I hesitated, you reminded me of her father's help. You told me I owed her, that Lisa left me because we were poor, and Maria stayed because she's a good girl. You said I couldn't let her down." "Don't talk about loyalty like that," his mother snapped. "Weren't you just hoping to keep working with the Brown family? So that was it. All these years of kindness from them wasn't about love. It was debt repayment. Gratitude toward my father, for bailing them out. And even now, he was still helping them. All the surprises, all the carefully crafted romance, I thought they came from Ben's heart. I thought maybe, just maybe, he had been moved by my love. Turns out, he was just following his mother's script. Not that he didn't have any feelings at all. I had noticed it before, every time he showed me even a little tenderness, I'd feel the distance immediately after. The more joy I felt, the more sadness I saw clouding his eyes. For years, he had been pretending to love me. Pretending to care. It must have been exhausting. Ugh. My stomach churned violently. I ran to the bathroom, barely making it in time before I started retching uncontrollably. I dropped to a squat, afraid I'd faint from the sudden rush of nausea. My stomach felt like it was on fire, the acid rising painfully into my throat. I gasped for air, one hand bracing myself, the other pressing against my neck as if that could ease the suffocating tightness. Baby, is mommy really that useless? All these years, and I still couldn't tell who truly loved me and who didn't. I wasn't sure when Ben and his mother had left. By the time I felt well enough to go downstairs again, they were already gone. For the sake of the babies in my belly, I forced myself to eat 2 of the shrimp wontons Ben had bought for me. But they were cold. The fishy smell was overwhelming, and the texture was rubbery. I managed to swallow 2 before throwing up everything. Oddly enough, after vomiting, I didn't feel worse, I felt calmer. Clearer. A thought took root in my heart. When I was 16, I believed my love for Ben was unshakable. I thought no matter how he treated me, I would love him just the same. But now, I knew, love could vanish in an instant. With just one word. In this marriage, in this so-called love story, I had always been the only one acting. And yet, so what? Even if I had to act until the end of my life, I still wouldn't let him and Lisa have their happily ever after. So between stepping away from a business marriage and choosing to stay and drag things out, I picked the latter. I pretended I hadn't heard a word of his conversation with his mother. I let Ben stay caught between 2 choices. Because I knew all too well, if I filed for divorce now, it would be a relief for him. He wouldn't thank me. He'd simply feel unburdened. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. And just like that, I suddenly felt a flicker of energy. I opened my phone and messaged him on WeChat, "Honey, the shrimp wontons you bought have gone cold. But I'm starving, could you get me another serving?" He replied quickly, "Of course." Less than 20 minutes later, he came rushing back, holding a steaming box of fresh wontons. Under his attentive gaze, I carefully ate them, bite by bite. But I had overestimated my endurance. Halfway through, I ran to the bathroom again and vomited. "What's going on with your body?" he asked, visibly worried. "Mom said you went to the hospital. What did the doctor say?" I did get checked, I replied hesitantly, my eyes beginning to sting with tears. But now? I don't want to tell you. I'm scared. Scared? Of what? His brows furrowed deeper. What is it, Maria? I drew a long breath, as if preparing to jump off a cliff. I'm pregnant, I said softly. The moment the words left my mouth, I saw the look on his face shift, shock, disbelief, confusion. For once, President Clark's always composed expression gave way to a flood of raw emotions. But the one thing I didn't see was joy. I thought you'd be happy, I said, lowering my eyes. But now? I guess it's a good thing I didn't tell my parents. We'll just deal with it ourselves, so they don't get hurt too. Retreating to advance, that was always the best strategy. After all these years with Ben, I knew how to play this game. And he always fell for it. The only reason he treated me well when his mother asked him to, was because he felt indebted to me. Now, all I had to do was make that debt grow. I pulled out the crumpled prenatal scan from my bag and laid it before him. The doctor said it's twins. I was going to get rid of them on my own, so you wouldn't be torn, but I didn't have the courage. Will you come with me? I was betting that he wouldn't let me go through with an abortion. These past 2 weeks, the reason he had been secretly seeing Lisa was because he knew the Clark and Brown family's partnership couldn't be jeopardized by our marriage. Why would you even think about that? Ben took the report in his hand. His eyes reddened as he read. Then he pulled me into his arms and whispered, Maria? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm really happy you're pregnant. Please don't get rid of them. Let's keep them, all right? Then what about her child? I looked up at him, tears clouding my vision. I'll take care of it, he said, gently patting my shoulder before helping me sit properly. Finish the wontons first. They'll get cold again. After learning I was pregnant, Ben started coming home earlier from work. Sometimes, he even joined me for lunch. My art gallery wasn't far from his office, just a 10-minute drive. In the past, it was always me pestering him to meet. Now, the roles had reversed. He came looking for me. We interacted just like before. At lunch, I'd talk about clients I met, the new paintings I was working on, the movies I watched, the funny things I saw online. But I never mentioned his child with Lisa. Not one word. I let him think I was generous, that I didn't care. This way, I became a perfect contrast to Lisa's daily nagging. Ben was with me every day now. Lisa must have been panicking. Several times, I saw his phone light up and dim again. Call after call. Message after message. Aside from a few work calls, the rest were all from Lisa. I knew, he still visited them during office hours. Ben, if only you had been even a little more sincere. If you had shown even a hint of resolve toward her and that child, I wouldn't have felt this disappointed. But Lisa wasn't stupid either. Knowing Ben wouldn't bend, she went straight to his parents. That weekend, Ben and I returned to the Clark family home for dinner. To my surprise, the child was there too. Her mom said she had to go on a business trip for a couple of days, my mother-in-law explained nervously, clearly worried I'd be upset. I told her I didn't have time to watch her either, but she said to just leave the girl here to fend for herself. What was I supposed to do? I couldn't just turn her away. Though her words were full of exasperation, the way she looked at the child, full of fondness, told a different story. It seemed the girl had been here for a few days already and was getting along quite well with Ben's parents. Honestly, I could understand. They were both in their 60s. Watching their peers enjoy the company of grandchildren, of course they envied that. I could picture it now, taking the little girl out, basking in the praise of strangers who commented on how beautiful and well-behaved their granddaughter was. Their pride would light up their faces. Daddy, the little girl walked timidly toward Ben, her voice soft and uncertain. She wanted to throw herself into his arms, but hesitated. Seeing her like that made my chest tighten. By all logic, I should hate this child. Her very presence had shattered the illusion of my perfect marriage. She had turned the hope I held for my unborn children into a cruel joke. But looking at her frail little body, her fearful eyes, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. That said, it was obvious her mother had taught her to hate me. As soon as I stepped through the front door, she came charging toward me and smacked me. You're the bad woman. You're the one who won't let Daddy see me. You're the reason Mommy cries at night. I hate you. Emma, what are you doing? Ben immediately shielded me, crouching down to grab the child's wrist and scolding her softly. That's very rude. You can't behave like that. Emma. What a lovely name. I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean to. I just really miss you, she whimpered and clung to Ben, tears streaming down her cheeks. Seeing her cry like that, Ben's parents came over and said in low voices, she's just a child. Let it go. Why can't Daddy play with me? Why can't he take me to school? Why do the other kids call me a stray with no parents? I have a dad, don't I? Her words fell like stones. The room fell into silence. No one knew what to say. Sensing the tension, Ben's mother came to my side, gently tugging at my arm. Maria, come inside. Don't take it to heart. She's just a child. But watching her sob into Ben's arms, clinging to him, carefully planting every word to make him feel guilty, I couldn't help but sneer inside. Was it really the child who didn't understand? Or was it just that her mother taught her too well? Ever since Emma White arrived, the once gloomy and lifeless Clark mansion suddenly felt full of warmth and laughter. After all, she was just a child of 5 or 6, no matter how recently she had been upset, a few delicious treats and new toys were enough to bring back her smile. Within just a few days, the house was filled with toys. They even installed a child-sized pink slide. Everything was pink. It was almost blinding. Even Ben's usually stern father began to show signs of tenderness and amusement. Perhaps it was the power of blood ties. Despite their dislike for Lisa, Ben's parents couldn't help but be fond of the little girl she had brought back. But it wasn't just the blood connection. After spending only 2 hours with her, I noticed something else. Putting aside the fact that she was the daughter of my love rival, she was, objectively speaking, a lovely and thoughtful child. When the housekeeper brought in fruit, she handed it first to her grandparents, then to Ben, and only after that did she take a piece for herself. Before playing with any toys, she politely asked if she was allowed. In front of Ben, she sought his attention in a sweet, slightly clingy way that tugged at the heart. Watching the cozy family scene unfold before me, I suddenly felt like an outsider. No, I was an outsider. There was no need to pretend otherwise. Ben must have realized how he'd neglected me in favor of his daughter. During dinner, he kept placing food into my bowl, urging me to eat more. But my mood was already ruined, and the nausea that had recently eased began to surge again. After only a few bites, I had to rush away to vomit. What's wrong, Maria? Ben's mother turned toward me with concern. Didn't you say you weren't feeling well the other day? Did you go to the hospital for a checkup? I did, I said, waving my hand. Nothing serious. I glanced at Ben, signaling clearly, if he didn't want to say it, I wouldn't either. Actually, Maria is pregnant, he finally said. We had discussed this before. I had deliberately told him not to inform his parents yet. He said they would find out eventually. Really? Ben's mother looked overjoyed. Her smile stretched wide. Oh, Maria. This is such big news, how could you keep it from us? As she spoke, she shot a subtle glance at Emma, who sat beside her. I guessed she was remembering how Emma had charged at me earlier and hit me. After all, being pregnant changed everything. What does pregnant mean? Emma White asked innocently, lifting her head to look at Ben's mom. Ben's mother chuckled. It means, you're going to have a little brother. Of course. Ben's parents clearly favored boys. They said all the right things about treating boys and girls equally, but their actions always told a different story. I lowered my head, thinking bitterly, my child won't have an older sister, only the brother who died 5 years ago. When the doctor confirmed it was twins, Ben's parents were even more thrilled, their joy practically radiating off them. In truth, the reason I had insisted on coming here was precisely so Ben would tell them. The day after we had lunch at the Clark mansion, Ben's mother suddenly declared that she wanted to move into our marital home to take care of me. Since I'd previously lost a stillborn baby, she was especially anxious this time, especially since I was carrying twins. If I could deliver 2 healthy sons, they believed it would bring great honor to the Clark family. I didn't refuse. I accepted their care, harboring a cruel thought in my heart, the higher the expectations, the more painful the fall. When I was pregnant the first time, I had taken care of myself, never once troubling Ben. But this time, I was smarter. Every prenatal appointment, I used my discomfort as an excuse to make Ben accompany me. Afterwards, I would sweet-talk his mother. They're still too small to see clearly, I said. But in a few months, the doctor might secretly let me know the gender. Oh, what's the point of asking, she said at first. Boy or girl, they're all the same. But before I could respond, she added, still, it would be nice to know. We can prepare in advance. I've been craving sour foods. They say sour cravings mean it's a boy. Haha, I bet it's 2 chubby little boys. 2 boys. I thought silently. It doesn't matter what they are. They won't belong to the Clark family. If the baby I lost 5 years ago had survived, he would have been the same age as that girl. Lately, I'd been dreaming of him constantly. In those dreams, he said to me, Mommy, I want to be with my little brothers. I want to be with them. My words made Ben's mother's face darken. She sighed and took my hand. Don't dwell on the past. Focus on delivering this baby safely. If you don't want to see that little girl again, I won't let her come to the house anymore. I continued my act. It's not the child's fault. She carries the Clark blood. If you want to bring her home, I won't stop you. I'll just avoid coming back to the mansion. That won't do, she said firmly. Her traditional values ran deep. You'll have to come back to the main house to recover after the birth. The children will be raised here. My husband and I will help you. My goal achieved, I lowered my gaze and stayed quiet. Don't worry, Maria, she added. We'll never let you suffer any grievance. I never asked, but I knew. From that day on, Ben's parents stopped letting Lisa's child visit. The toys they'd bought for her were all sent to Lisa instead. To welcome the twins I was carrying, they spent time and money renovating 2 spacious rooms, one as a nursery, the other as a playroom. Even the park outside was redesigned into a mini amusement area. Everything was blue. The toys were all cars and toy guns, typical for boys. Mom, Dad, Ben said, the babies are only 3 months along. Isn't this a little soon? It's good to prepare early, they replied. We need time to air out the paint fumes, better for the kids. I gently touched my slightly swelling belly and said in the softest voice, babies, Grandma and Grandpa already love you so much. You must grow up and be good to them too. The couple were delighted. They laughed heartily and spent even more money preparing for the babies. Perhaps because Ben and his mother were always around me, Lisa became unhappy. She called me and asked to meet. She brought her daughter along. The mother-daughter pair looked so pitiful, one might have mistaken them for the legitimate wife and child, while I was the mistress who had barged in. Emma, say hi to Auntie, Lisa urged her pouting daughter as I sat down. But the little girl just snorted and turned her head away. She's always like this, Lisa said awkwardly. Don't take it personally. I couldn't be bothered with her nonsense. If you have something to say, just say it. No need to play games. Lisa hadn't changed much over the years. She had a delicate, cold beauty, sharp features, a petite frame. That fragile look always triggered men's protective instincts. Ben and I were childhood friends. I used to cling to him, following him everywhere. But after he met Lisa, he began to drift away from me. When they got together, our relationship ended, not even as friends. I once believed they'd grow old together, and that I'd be left with my unrequited love. But then the Clark family business hit a crisis, and Lisa left Ben to pursue a better future. During that lowest period of his life, I was the one who stayed by his side. I went with him to the airport and watched as Lisa disappeared through security. That Ben, he was no longer the proud and composed man I had known. He was devastated, broken. Through his tears, he asked me, did she ever love me at all? Did she only care about my status and wealth? I told him, Ben, I'll stay with you. I'll help you rise again. So I begged my father to save the Clark family. The day my father agreed to invest, Ben proposed to me. He said he would spend the rest of his life treating me well. 6 years passed. I stood by Ben through his darkest days, helped him rebuild everything. And now? She returned, with a child, thinking she could take him back? Life doesn't work that way. But her shamelessness truly knew no bounds. With a pitiful look, she actually lowered her voice and pleaded with me, my daughter is only 5, she needs her father. Could you please give Ben back to us? Her daughter needed a father. Then what about my children? I was carrying 2. I picked up the glass of water on the table and took a sip. After a moment, I slowly looked up at the man who had just walked in from outside and asked, Ben, what do you think? Should I give you to them? I called Ben over because deep down, I really wanted him to make a decision for once. But once again, I was disappointed. He turned his head to the side and lowered his gaze, silent for a long time. It was my fault, really. After knowing him for so many years, I had never realized that aside from being excellent in school and work, he was utterly clueless when it came to relationships. Growing up with an overbearing mother who handled everything for him, he never learned how to deal with complex emotions or situations. With me, he felt guilt and obligation. With Lisa, he probably just couldn't let go. So he tried to appease both sides, to please us both. But whenever Lisa and I stood face to face, demanding a choice from him, he froze. He wanted no one hurt, no one resentful. But in the end, he hurt us both. I'm tired. You deal with it yourself, I said coldly, grabbing my bag and leaving. Ben didn't chase after me. Instead, he comforted Lisa and her daughter, walked them home, and only came back afterward. Later, he apologized, again. Told me I should talk to him first instead of seeing them on my own. Promised, once again, that he would handle everything. I was tired of hearing those words. The child was already so big, how exactly was he planning to handle that? What he could handle, was the one still unborn. But I didn't fight with him. I let him continue to waver between Lisa and me. When I saw he'd had a rough time with Lisa, I was extra gentle with him, filling his heart with hopeful visions of life after our twins were born. After all, 2 children had to weigh more than one. By the 5th month of my pregnancy, the weather had warmed up. My best friend, worried I'd feel stuffy staying indoors all the time, invited me out shopping. She asked, you really plan to keep these babies and spend the rest of your life with that scumbag? I looked up at the clear blue sky and said softly, of course not. Could a heart that had already turned cold ever be warmed again? Even with the sun shining so brightly, I couldn't feel the slightest trace of warmth. Looks like you've made up your mind, she said knowingly, not pressing me for more. Across the street, she spotted my favorite milk tea shop and her eyes lit up. Didn't you say you were craving milk tea? Wait here, I'll go get it for you. Before I could stop her, she dashed off to join the line. I tried to follow, but she waved me off. It's hot out here. Go wait in the mall. My heart softened. I nodded, okay. As I headed toward the mall entrance, I noticed a woman and a little girl walking from the side of the road. The woman wore a white dress and was practically dragging the child across the crosswalk. You useless little thing, she scolded. You can't even compete with a baby who's not born yet. Why do I even bother raising you? I'm sorry, Mommy. I was wrong, the girl whimpered. Just wait till we see your father. If he doesn't come back with us, I'll throw you away and never let you come home again. Lisa's voice was shrill and full of venom. She didn't care that people were watching. She pinched and slapped the little girl as she dragged her along. I walked closer, curious, and my heart clenched when I saw who it was. It was Lisa. The girl was crying quietly, clearly used to suppressing the sound. Move faster. You're embarrassing me, Lisa hissed, pulling her away. They walked in the direction opposite mine. Across the road, just beyond them, was Ben's office building. All this time, I'd thought every child was cherished by their parents. Like I had been. Like Ben had been. But in that moment, watching that scene, I realized something chilling. Lisa was even more frightening than I'd imagined. She hadn't raised that child out of love. She just wanted to use the girl to manipulate Ben, to pull him back to her side. No wonder the girl looked so scrawny, more like a 4 or 5-year-old than nearly 6. No wonder she always looked so timid, even around Ben. I thought Lisa had taught her to act that way. But the truth was, she wasn't loved. She was never cherished. She was just a tool, a tether Lisa used to tie Ben down. I felt an ache in my chest. All this time, I'd been pulling Ben closer, winning over his parents, spending every evening with him while Lisa had been treating the girl like that. But what did it have to do with me? The girl wasn't to blame. But neither was I. So why did I feel guilty? Why did I feel sorry for her? As I stood there lost in thought, my best friend returned, milk tea in hand. I told you to wait inside. What are you standing around here for? Snapping out of it, I took the warm cup she handed me and smiled. I was waiting for you. Come on, let's buy whatever you want today, it's on me. Consider it my baby shower gift in advance. Deal? You said it, I laughed. She said the weather was beautiful, the future even brighter, and that we shouldn't let people like them ruin our lives. She was right. And honestly, I felt the same way. I thought I wouldn't see that little girl again. But just a week later, I ran into her in front of my house. She was crouched under a tree. When she saw me return, she tried to hide, but I'd already seen her. I saw you, I called out. Come out. A while later, she stepped out, her tiny frame trembling. You came here by yourself? I asked. She nodded, barely audibly. Why? I asked gently. She bit her lip and looked down, as if she'd done something wrong. Do you want some cake? I asked. I had picked up a small slice on the way home. She looked up at me, her eyes round and glassy like peeled grapes. I had to admit, she was a beautiful child. Round face, delicate features, a little flushed from crying, with those big shimmering eyes blinking at me, utterly adorable. I was supposed to hate her. But looking at that face, I just couldn't. Ben didn't have a round face. Neither did Lisa. I didn't know who she took after, but her little chin was so thin, no baby fat at all. If she gained a little weight, she'd be even cuter. She stared at the cake for a long time but said nothing. I walked up to her, took her dirty little hand in mine, and said softly, come eat. You'll need your strength if you want to call your daddy home. Why doesn't daddy come see me and mommy? She asked, looking up at me. Is it because Emma's too naughty? Or too stupid? That question hit me like a punch to the heart. Eat first, I said, shaking the cake in my hand. I'll tell you after. She finally nodded and followed me inside. Ben's mom wasn't home. He was still at work. The huge villa was quiet, just the two of us. She looked around curiously, clearly unfamiliar with the place. You don't hate me? I asked. Then why did you come here? She thought for a moment and answered honestly, I don't think you're that bad. But mommy says you're a bad woman. I don't really believe her. Oh? I was intrigued by what she said. Because I saw you feeding a stray cat, she said, her big round eyes blinking at me. Her soft, childish voice was surprisingly pleasant to the ear. Mommy used to kick stray cats and dogs away really hard, but you didn't. So, I think, you're not mean. It seemed this little one had been watching from the doorway all day. Was Lisa really so careless? Wasn't she afraid someone might take the girl away? Come on, let's go wash your hands. I only remembered her hands were filthy after opening the cake box. When I took her to the restroom, she resisted a bit. Roll up your sleeves, I said gently. She shook her head. You'll get your clothes all wet if you don't, I reminded her. Then, maybe I shouldn't eat, she said, turning to leave. I quickly reached out and grabbed her arm. The moment I held her hand, I felt her flinch slightly. I rolled up her sleeve, and was stunned. A large purple bruise covered her forearm. It looked like she'd been pinched, and pinched hard. My heart tightened. I rolled up the other sleeve, more bruises. Her legs too. Her little body was covered in bruises of varying sizes and colors. Did she hit you? I asked softly, my voice trembling, my nose stinging. She lowered her head silently. Tears rolled down her cheeks. It's because I'm dumb, because I'm useless. Mommy only punishes me when I'm bad. She was only 5 or 6. Her own flesh and blood? How could Lisa do this to her? Is it because Daddy hasn't come home that Mommy hits you? I asked again. She nodded, then looked up at me with teary eyes and pleaded, Auntie, I know you're not a bad person, you're a good auntie. Can you give Daddy back to us? Mommy said Daddy was ours, and you stole him from us. Lisa really had the guts to say something like that. If Daddy doesn't come back, Mommy gets mad, and then she hits me. I'm sorry, Auntie. I'm really sorry. I know you have a baby in your tummy now. If Daddy comes back to us, does that mean your babies won't have a daddy anymore? Will you hit them too? I won't, I choked out, my throat tight. It's not your fault Daddy's not around. He's just really busy right now. Go home and tell Mommy, he'll come back once he finishes everything he's working on. Really? Really? I didn't know if Lisa had sent the child here on purpose, to act out this little scene in front of me. But whether it was intentional or not, she had succeeded. Because I had been a mother once, I couldn't bear to see a child suffer, especially when that suffering was somehow related to me. She had already won. In fact, she won the moment she brought that little girl back into Ben's life. I just wasn't willing to admit defeat. By the 7th month of my pregnancy, while the entire Clark family eagerly awaited the baby's arrival, I left behind a divorce agreement and a falsified medical report of a miscarriage, and disappeared from their lives. Ben panicked. He lost his mind searching for me, calling, texting, but I ignored him all the same. Ben, pretending to love me all these years must have been exhausting. You don't have to keep pretending anymore. I won't make it hard for you. Even though Ben's business had developed decently, it still couldn't compare to my parents' resources. They had the power to ensure I lived comfortably anywhere in the world, and Ben wouldn't be able to find a trace of me. Surrounded by the love of my parents and my brother, I was truly happy. I believed my children would be happy too, even without a father. But before reaching full term, I went into premature labor. Because we had lost one child before, my parents and I had been extremely cautious this time. The moment something felt wrong, they immediately checked me into the hospital. They stayed by my side the whole time, comforting me, assuring me that everything would go smoothly this time. But I was still terrified. I kept dreaming about the child I lost 5 years ago. The doctors had told me it was a boy, but lately, my dreams had all featured a beautiful little girl. She had chubby cheeks, large eyes, and she would sweetly call me Mommy. She said she felt lonely and wanted to be with her younger siblings. Baby, you'll protect Mommy, right? Then the doctors wheeled me into the operating room. Their slightly furrowed brows filled me with dread. Please, doctor, just save my babies. Don't worry about me, just save them. A friend who studied medicine once told me that, in truth, there's no such thing as save the mother or save the child during childbirth. Every OBGYN tries their absolute best to save the mother, because she is the full, existing life, and the baby, not yet born, is still part of her. But even knowing that, I begged them to give everything they had to save my children. Even if it meant sacrificing me. But due to severe hemorrhaging, they couldn't save the babies. And my life ended at that very moment. Sleep, Maria. Maria, wake up. Please, look at Mommy. Don't sleep, okay? In a haze, I heard familiar voices in my ears, calling my name again and again, begging me to wake up. But I was so tired. Really, really tired. My whole body hurt, so badly that I could barely breathe. I just wanted to rest a little. Just a little while. In the more than 10 years I loved Ben, I had never truly lived for myself. I had always been chasing after him. Even during the 3 years he was with Lisa, I never gave up. I thought, if I worked harder, if I was better than Lisa, got better grades, if I earned a spot in a top graduate program, maybe he would finally notice me. But he never did. Even when I was admitted to the best art school in the country, he didn't spare me a second glance. It wasn't until the day his parents came to my house with gifts to ask my father for help, that he finally noticed me. If I could do it all over again, I would never make the same choice. Maybe the child didn't want to be born into such a toxic family either, and that's why they refused to come into this world. If that's the case, then I shouldn't force them. So when I opened my eyes again and found myself back at 22, back in the car on the way to meet Ben, I suddenly felt the sunlight outside was warm again. Sitting across from me was a young man in a white shirt, his posture straight and proud. He was about to propose, eyes full of conflicted emotions. But this time, I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "No. I don't want to marry you, and I don't need you to try and love me. I have my family, my dearest friends, and I have myself. I don't need your fake affection anymore." I thought he would be relieved. Instead, I saw his eyes turn red. He lowered his gaze and said, "I'm sorry." "No. I should be the one saying sorry," I replied with a bitter smile. "Ben, the hole your family dug is too deep. I don't think my father can fill it." I hadn't forgotten how, in my past life, my father did everything he could to save the Clark family from ruin. He worked late nights to pull in clients, aged prematurely from the stress, all for the sake of my childish obsession. I was too selfish. I had let my parents suffer just to chase a one-sided love. "It's okay," Ben said, smiling faintly. "It's really okay." I knew it. He never truly wanted to marry me. "Goodbye," I waved at him lightly, grateful that he didn't ask more questions or try to follow me. I, Maria, have loved far too deeply in this life. If I could live again, I only wish to be a better version of myself. When I returned home, I reached out and hugged my father. "Dad," I said gently, "let's not help the Clark family anymore, okay? We're not obligated to." "Why? Sweetheart, weren't you?" "I don't like Ben anymore. I think his ex-girlfriend might be pregnant with his child. I saw her at the OBGYN clinic a few days ago. But this? Shoo, just between you and me." He coughed and nodded. "All right. I won't say a word. But that damn brat, got another woman pregnant and still wants to marry my daughter? Still wants our help to save his family? What the hell is Ben's dad thinking? If not for the sake of old friendship, I'd give them another slap or two myself. It's fine. They're already falling apart. I'm too tired to care. And Dad, don't be upset either. Honestly, I've always felt Ben wasn't a good match. His mother's way too domineering, and he has no backbone. He was never going to treat me right. Someday, I'll meet someone better." "I know," I said with a soft smile. "But I don't want to get married anymore. I just want to be with you, Mom, and my brother." "Then don't get married. I'll take care of you for the rest of my life," he said without hesitation. Extra chapter, Ben Clark. When I received the divorce papers and the abortion certificate Maria mailed me, I thought she was joking. I rushed upstairs, only to find her belongings completely gone. My parents had just returned from our hometown, carrying free-range chicken, duck, and some ginseng. They had planned to help Maria recuperate, even talked about hiring 2 postpartum nannies to look after her and the babies. Watching their enthusiasm, their bright smiles full of anticipation, my throat tightened. I almost couldn't speak. "Where's Maria?" my mother asked, looking up at me. "Is she napping? Let's cook dinner first and call her down when it's ready." My father, who had never cared about household affairs or what we ate, had been busier than ever since learning Maria was pregnant with twins. He prepped the nursery, bought toys, and called our relatives to arrange organic food delivery for her. But now, Maria had aborted the babies. "She's gone, Mom," I finally choked out. My voice cracked. "Gone? Back to her parents' place," was my mother's first thought. Her words jolted me. I bolted out of the house. I drove straight to the Brown residence. The whole family was gone. Their housekeeper said they had taken Maria to the hospital for a procedure and then immediately went abroad to help her recover. I frantically called Maria. She only left one message: "Ben, pretending to love me all these years must have been exhausting. I won't burden you anymore. Please don't look for me." The words blurred in front of me. "Maria, is this your way of getting back at me?" I whispered, trembling as I gripped my phone. I couldn't even describe what I felt. Was it regret? Anger? I had thought I'd done well these past 6 years. I'd stayed by her side, given her my gentleness and care. I was more patient with her than I had ever been with Lisa. Admittedly, part of the reason I treated Maria so well was because her father saved the Clark family. I owed her a debt. She had been kind to me. I wanted to repay her. But the moment Lisa showed up with that child, I realized something. My feelings for Maria weren't just gratitude or guilt anymore. I didn't want to separate from her. I didn't want to go back to Lisa. But Maria never gave me the chance. When my parents found out, they were furious. They called Maria heartless, a murderer, even, for killing the Clark family's unborn children. 6 months. Those babies were already formed. Just 1 more month and they might have survived a preterm birth. How could she be so cruel? My mother screamed, sobbing uncontrollably. Yes, 6-month-old babies are fully developed. How could she bear to get rid of them? But then again, what kind of pain must I have caused her, for her to hate me so much that she'd do something like that? My parents wanted to confront the Browns. I stopped them. I knew, deep down, that even if we found her, it would change nothing. The babies were gone. For years, I believed I didn't love Maria, that it was all duty and gratitude. That I was just a puppet, controlled by my mother's expectations, going through the motions of being a good husband. But, was that really all it was? 6 years ago, after Lisa left and the company fell into crisis, I was in a dark place. I was depressed and aimless. Maria was the one who stayed by my side. She showed me her drawings of me. A smiling boy, warm and full of light. "That's you," she said. "The Ben I know is the best boy in the world. He'll pull through this. He'll revive the Clark family with his own hands. Ben," she had told me, "I'll stay with you. I'll always be with you." And for 6 whole years, she really was. She never once left. But now, I come home to a big, empty house. No warm meals. No hugs when I open the door. Not even a single trace of her remains. As if she never existed. And it's in the silence I finally realized. What I loved was never her family, never the babies. It was her. Just her. Even if she aborted the twins, I still want to find her. She's my wife. Maria Clark. And she always will be. I dropped everything and hired people to search for her. After 2 months, we finally found a clue by tracking her relatives' movements. She was living in a small town in Australia. But before I could fly there, Emma White's school called. "She's been in an accident," they said. "We're rushing her to the hospital. Please come at once." I forced myself to stay calm. "I'm sorry. That's not my daughter," I said coldly, and hung up. In my mind, it was Emma and Lisa who drove Maria away, who caused her to abort the babies and leave me. But the school kept calling. "Mr. Clark, please, we can't reach her mother. The child is in critical condition. You're the only emergency contact." At that moment, I thought, I've already lost 2 children. Emma, no matter what, is still a child. I can't let something happen to her. So, I went. As I stood outside the operating room, the doctor turned to me. "Mr. Clark, do you have any relatives with O-negative blood? Our supply is low, and it'll take at least 30 minutes to get more from another hospital. Do you have anyone you can call?" "Use mine," I blurted out. "I'm her father." I rolled up my sleeve, but then paused, stunned. Wait. O-negative? Why is her blood type O-negative? Lisa had told me she was AB. How could the child be O? The doctor added, "Yes, she's O-negative. Also, immediate family members can't donate in emergency cases. We're still trying to find backup donors. Could you check with other relatives?" I froze. I'm type A, Lisa is type AB. Our child could be A, B, or AB. But never O. Then I remembered Maria, and how, during one of her prenatal checkups, I had accidentally seen her medical chart. She was O-negative too. I had done a paternity test. I was certain that Emma White was my child. So, a ridiculous thought floated through my mind, but this wasn't the time for that. Saving the child came first. I contacted my assistant and instructed him to immediately gather all healthy employees with type O blood. 10 minutes later, he arrived with more than a dozen staff members. 3 hours later, Emma White was out of danger. Lisa showed up late. Under my interrogation, she finally confessed everything. Emma White wasn't her daughter at all. After our breakup, Lisa had gone abroad and never got pregnant. A year later, she regretted everything. When she returned to the country, she discovered I had married Maria, and we already had a child. It just so happened that her friend worked at the hospital where Maria had her prenatal checkups. Lisa bribed the doctor, stole our child, and swapped in a stillborn to deceive us. Only then did I realize why Emma had always felt so familiar, yet looked nothing like Lisa or me. It was because she looked like a younger version of Maria. But due to years of malnutrition and mistreatment, she was much thinner than Maria had been at that age, making the resemblance less obvious at first. As I watched Lisa kneel before me in tears, begging for forgiveness, I felt not a shred of sympathy. I called my parents to take care of Emma and boarded a plane to Australia to find Maria. As for Lisa, I planned to deal with her once Maria returned. I couldn't wait any longer. I wanted to tell her, Emma was our child. The baby she thought had died 5 years ago. Lisa had stolen her. Our child was alive and well. But after all my desperate efforts to get to her, what I found was her cold, lifeless body. She hadn't been cruel enough to abort our children. She had chosen to give birth to them in secret. But in the end, it was those very children that took her life. "Maria, you told me you'd gotten rid of the baby. Why did you lie to me? Why didn't you go through with it?" In that moment, I wished with everything I had, that she had aborted them. Because then, she might still be alive. "Maria, let me take you home, please, let's go home." I tried to carry Maria away, but her brother and father stopped me. They each punched me once. They refused to let me take her, saying we were already divorced. But we weren't. Maria and I had never divorced. We still had a child, a 5-year-old child. In the end, I didn't bring her back. She probably hated me. She wouldn't want to see me. She'd want to be laid to rest properly by her parents. But I still made a decision on my own. I had a grave built for her, and placed inside it the sketchbook she once gave me. She had drawn those sketches just for me. She loved painting. She had real talent. I remember she used to say she wanted to be an artist when she grew up. But after we got married, she hardly painted anymore, just to spend time with me. When she lost our first child, she fell into depression. Every time she picked up her brush, she would cry. So I told her to stop drawing. It took her 3 years to slowly recover. But it felt like, when the child was taken from her, a part of her talent left with them. She often said, "I don't think I draw as well as I used to." And I'd always comfort her. "No, your drawings are still beautiful." And I meant it. They really were. After returning from Australia, I locked myself in the room. I sat on the balcony where she used to paint, staring at her easel. My heart felt hollow. They say when the one you love most dies, the sorrow doesn't come crashing down all at once. The real pain hits when you return home, when you sit on the couch you once shared, lie in the bed you used to sleep in together, open the fridge and see the food she liked. When you see her things left behind. In that one quiet moment, you feel it. Without her, the entire world is dim. And the sky will never be clear again. Staring at the easel she didn't take with her, I finally understood what that meant. Emma stayed in the hospital for another 2 weeks before being discharged. My parents picked her up. I stood far away, watching, and felt even worse. I didn't dare approach or speak to her, afraid I'd break down. I didn't know how to face her. I didn't know how to tell her that Lisa wasn't her real mother. That the woman who gave birth to her was Maria, whom I had destroyed. Lisa begged me, she pleaded to let her continue being Emma's mother. How could I ever allow that? I held it in. Finally, I said to her, "Turn yourself in. Or I don't know what I'll end up doing." I gave her one final look and walked away. Afraid that if I stayed a moment longer, I might do something truly unforgivable. Lisa was despicable. But I wasn't any better. She was punished by the law. But me? There was no law to punish me. So I would spend the rest of my life, imprisoned by guilt. That would be my punishment. After Emma was discharged, I changed her name, to Emma Clark. That was the name Maria once thought of. My name is Maria. Love always feels so far away. If I ever have a daughter, I'll name her Emma. Maria, our Emma has come home. But what about you? When will you come back? Though I changed our daughter's name and brought her into the Clark family, I didn't dare get close to her. Because I realized, the older she grew, the more she looked like Maria. That soft, round baby face, those big, expressive eyes. It was as if Maria had come back to life. How had I never seen it before? Every time I looked at my daughter, I missed Maria more. Each night, in the few moments before I fell asleep, I would dream of her. Most of the dreams were beautiful, of our childhood. She was so lively, always laughing, always tugging at my hand and saying, "Ben, come play with me." She loved jumping rope, playing chess, and clinging to me. She was full of life, but whenever she painted, she became calm and focused. Without realizing it, I've learned to draw too. I can now sketch her face from memory. But with time, her features are becoming harder to recall. My daughter is growing up, but looking less and less like her. One day, I had another dream. We were 22 again. My mother was taking me to the Brown family, begging Maria's father to save our company. I dreamed of calling her, asking her out, proposing to her. But this time, she said no. Looking at her fair, serious face, tears welled up in my eyes. And then, I realized. This wasn't a dream. I had truly come back. So had she. But even so, we could never go back again.